Kevin Book, Michael Marlowe coming to you. Obviously, not a Sunday recap. Free agency frenzy in the NFL. Going to be doing shows all week. And we just had breaking news a few minutes ago, Mike. Sam Darnold, Seahawks. I think you were the first person to text me after Geno got traded, and you said Darnold to Seahawks, question mark. And I kind of said, I think it's going to be a draft situation for them. Jackson Dart, maybe a veteran, thought they were going for the full rebuild. They're absolutely not. Darnold gets paid 3 for 100.5. Thoughts?
Darnold's younger. I think Darnold's better. I went through who would you rather with my friends the second Geno got traded over to the Raiders, and I said this is a good Sam Darnold spot, and it just made so much sense. You know, Geno was getting paid a ton, but he only had 1 year left on that contract. Now at 3 years, 100, like you could survive this, especially for what Sam Darnold can do. Listen, I understand he was in the perfect situation last year, Kevin, but Darnold is a big kid, athletic, can throw the ball deep. We saw that last season. I think that was huge for him. And now he's going to come to a situation, obviously going to take some of those things he learned from Kevin O'Connell and bring them with him to Seattle with a big-time receiver like Jackson Smith-Njigba.
When they had first traded Geno, I think it was Mina Kimes, who I do like, Mina Kimes, and she had put on Twitter, I don't like the move for Seattle. Very difficult to upgrade over Geno Smith. And let's be honest, there's one guy, draft or free agency, that you can consider an upgrade, and I think it is Darnold. And you just highlighted why. Nice move. They get younger. McDonald can start to pair himself with Darnold. And if it stinks this year and it's a disaster and he sucks, you got a good quarterback draft next season. You got a good quarterback draft the year after. But they just won 10 games in Seattle. They got rid of Metcalf. They got rid of Lockett. They got rid of Darnold. They got rid of Geno. Now they bring in Darnold. You still have Smith-Njigba, who might have been the best receiver in the group. So by no means is it a full rebuild going on or a tank at all in Seattle. Do you think that this one works out, though, now that he's away from O'Connell and it's going to be Kubiak as the OC? Do you like the fit for Sam to continue production? Because that's where I would have worried with any of the destinations.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll see Sam have the kind of season he had last season, maybe ever again. I mean, this guy was a top 5 MVP. Did he come in the top 5? They don't do top 5 in NFL, right? It's only top 3 in the voting, or do they have a top 5?
They do the top 3, but it's like top 10. I'll look right now where he finished.
I mean, he was a top 5, 6 guy last season. That's an incredible an incredible year. I don't think he'll match
voting
that.
10th, but
he was 10th.
That's really low. He was 10th, but Pro Bowl.
That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful.
10th MVP and 3rd in comeback player of the year. But either way, I mean, great season.
I don't think he'll match that, but could he be a productive guy that throws you 30 touchdowns? Maybe he has 10, 11 interceptions, throws for close to 4,000 yards. I mean, you can live with that. You would absolutely live with that. You would take that if you're the Seahawks, especially at this price. You might be getting a bargain here. You really might be getting a bargain here.
It's worth the risk. Guys. Just a reminder, but Darnold, yeah, you're getting the bargain here. And I had posted the video this morning about the Steelers. You got Metcalf last night. You have Pickens. You have Freiermuth. Where do you go at quarterback? And it sounds like Rodgers right now is the leading candidate, but
we got it. Got breaking news. You got it.
I don't got it.
The Jets are signing Justin Fields to a 2-year, $40 million contract. 30 guaranteed.
Mil?
Yes.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I had put this morning in the predictions 2 for 22. And
he gets
Fields
double that.
40. So now I wonder if what had happened with Fields, and by the way, I'm excited about it. I do think that Fields was the only upgrade the Jets could have made over Rodgers. Realistically, they weren't getting Darnold and they weren't getting Geno Smith. But the Jets get Fields, and I wonder if what had happened was, obviously they didn't just start talking at 12 o'clock. That's BS.
Right.
They have been talking for a few days, and Pittsburgh maybe was flirting with that. If we can get Fields back on a 2 for 22, 2 for 25 type of deal, then we'll be happy about it, and we'd be glad to bring him back. Then they get Metcalf. Fields might have had some leverage there to go to the Jets and say, if you want me, you got to pay up because I got a good situation I could walk right back to it, Pin.
I think if you're the Steelers, though, why would you even entertain it? Like, listen, I'm not a big Justin Fields guy at all. I don't hate this for the Jets scenario. In the situation the Jets are in, I don't hate it. But for the Steelers, who you make a big move to trade and sign Metcalf, you have Pickens. Like, to me, the Steelers were always made more sense for Rodgers or Darnold potentially prior to him signing. I get it for the Jets. I don't know why the Steelers would have even flirted with Fields.
No, and I said that in the video this morning. Like, why is Fields, when you're upgrading at receiver, why is Fields your option? Because now I look at the Jets and that situation for Fields, and this is what I would do, is I wouldn't really go crazy adding receivers. They need another receiver or two, but you don't need to go. You have Garrett Wilson. You don't need to get a guy as good or better. So you want to play a game of, we have Fields, Breece Hall, and Braylon Allen. You have, and for the Steelers, it would have been Fields last year, Fields, Najee, and Warren, and you have 4 downs to get 10 yards with those 3 runners. And that's what you want to do. So when they got Metcalf and they hadn't signed Fields yet, it seemed out. But Mike, doesn't Russ even feel like a way better situation for them? They benched Fields last year for Russell Wilson, and he didn't play terribly. He wasn't great, but to throw to Metcalf and Pickens, especially after getting Metcalf, a guy who he's buddies with, and he had great success with in Seattle, Russ always felt like a more realistic option, as did Rodgers after they got Metcalf.
And if you're trying to win games this season, which obviously the Steelers are, they're going for it. They're trying to make the playoffs and win football games. Who makes more sense for them? If it's a future thing, okay, maybe Fields does make sense. But you don't go out there, trade a second-round pick for Metcalf, give him that big-time contract, and then say, we're going to try this experiment with Fields for 2 more years. You sign a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers to a 1-year contract and say, let's go win as many games as possible this season. We'll figure out the future of this position down the line.
So now I want to look at the other couple of positions, because you know what? Like, we could sit here and speculate, oh, the Jets will do this with Fields. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be great with him. I think it's their best option. And I like that Glenn and Muji stepped up and did it. We have spoken a little bit about like who could be the next Darnold, Mayfield, Geno. I think Fields is the best candidate for it. But for every Darnold, there's 5, 10 Sam Bradfords or just guys that didn't turn it around.
Yeah.
So unlikely that it happens. But either way, good little upside signing for the Jets last a year or two. The rest of the spots now for these quarterbacks, Jets are gone with Fields, Seahawks are gone, Raiders are gone, Giants, Steelers, maybe Titans, and Colts. What do you think of those last 4?
So I think the Steelers are going to be the team for Rodgers. I think, again, just if you want to win football games, a veteran guy, the best guy on the market right now, I think, is Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson's up there. He's not on Aaron Rodgers' level. I think the Giants will want Rodgers, miss him, and sign Fields. I don't know exactly where the Titans go. Are they a Kirk Cousins spot? If he becomes available, he's not available yet. Could that be the spot for him? And Daniel Jones is going to end up with either Minnesota or Indianapolis, one of those 2 spots. I think the Colts have really been trying to get that done. But I think now that the Vikings don't have Darnold anymore, I think if you're Daniel Jones, it makes the most sense. If Kevin O'Connell wants you back and wants you to start for a couple of games before they hand the keys to J.J. McCarthy, wouldn't you go back to that situation?
Yeah, you'd have to. And I do think now it's starting to become more likely that McCarthy is just the starter for the Vikings next year. I do think that's how we're trending, because even if Jones and McCarthy have if Jones went back to Minnesota, there's no way they'd guarantee him the week 1 starting job. It would be a competition. And you might say, all right, well, I have a chance. Indianapolis, it would also be a competition. But I look at the 2 guys, first round pick from last year that hasn't played yet, showed some promise in preseason. And McCarthy definitely fits in that system. I think I have a better shot of going to Indianapolis, where there's talent and a good offensive play caller, and saying I could go beat Anthony Richardson for this job, because he hasn't shown any ability in the passing game, and he had the issues last year as a teammate and as a leader. I think that if they're looking to sign me and really pursue me, and I think after seeing what Fields just got, Jones maybe could pinch some money out of the pockets of the Colts if they're really looking to get him. This is a good situation for Daniel Jones to walk
But
to
I think,
Indianapolis.
but if you're trying to rehabilitate your career like Daniel Jones is and really start it up and go on that track of Darnold and Mayfield, like it wasn't just them getting cut or getting traded and then half a year later they're back in a position where they could start or compete to start. They had to go be backups for a little bit. They had to, really go through it, compete for jobs. I think going back to Minnesota, and whether he takes the job early and runs with it for a few weeks, maybe he gets hurt, or maybe they just give it to JJ at some point, but getting that experience with O'Connell and making him bench you for McCarthy, I think that is better for the long term for Daniel Jones's career.
And I think if you look at both situations, Jones can at least justify saying the Colts, maybe they offer him double the money. Maybe the Vikings offer him $6 million a year. Colts say we'll give you 12 or 13 a year for it's going to be one season either way.
Mm-hmm.
And the Colts decide to step up and do that. You can sit there and say, well, Jonathan Taylor, a couple pieces on the offensive line. It has to get better though. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman. I like Steichen. You can at least rationalize the situation in your head. That's why I think it makes it competitive. But you're right. If you get a chance to play 7 games, 8 games for Minnesota next year, your career is probably in a much better place than playing 17 games with Indianapolis.
I do agree with you, though. The spot is a good spot, Indianapolis. I do like it. I thought they should have been on Darnold. Be honest
I thought so too, because you look at this contract, man. Maybe Darnold wanted Seattle. Maybe there's some sort of a connection there. I don't know what the connection would be between the coaching staff or the front office with Darnold, but if you look at this contract, this is a nice low risk 2 years for one of these teams. The only problem for the Colts is when you sign Darnold, you're done with Richardson. You're not playing Richardson when you sign Darnold.
And you think they're seriously not done with him?
I think that they're trying to be, but maybe ownership doesn't want it. Maybe the front office doesn't want it. I don't think Steichen wants him as his quarterback anymore, which is a huge problem.
Signing Daniel Jones is half-assing that. Half-assing that whole situation of we don't love Richardson, but maybe we can have somebody come in and compete for 1 year. Mm-hmm. If you don't love Richardson and you like Sam Darnold, maybe they just didn't like Sam Darnold enough. But in that situation, you have to take out how you feel about how you want to feel about a guy you drafted 5th overall, or what it was 5th overall. And
4th.
You have to take those feelings out and say, do we like Darnold? Can he be our starting quarterback? Do we think we'd win with him?
Yeah.
They obviously didn't do that.
Interesting scenario for these teams, Minnesota and Indianapolis. O'Connell letting Darnold walk out clearly is saying I can develop any of these guys. I can make Jones or McCarthy work. We don't need to go with Darnold, because if you really thought Darnold brought an element to your offense that you couldn't create with another quarterback, you would have signed this contract or offered him this contract if you were Minnesota. And I don't even think they offered him anything significant.
I don't know if it's that simple though. I think O'Connell really liked him. I think those guys in that locker room.
I think he
really
did too.
Him.
But when
they wanted him back.
You know what was interesting? Did you see the tweet the other day about the assets the Vikings have let walk out the door in free agency in this O'Connell? What's the GM's name?
Really difficult to say last name.
Yeah. But did you see that?
Yeah, I didn't see the tweet. What was it?
It's Adolfo Mensa is the GM. Quessy is the first name. That's what they call him. I'm gonna look for it right now. The tweet, and it was about how the GM is letting their most valuable asset every year walk out the door, and they never tag the guys that they're going to let leave to try and tag and trade.
Wow. So you kind of know what they're going to do or who they're going to keep.
Yeah, and Vikings fans are pissed about it because they're saying, we should be able to get at least a 3rd-round pick in a sign and trade of Darnold. We should be able to get I forget who the other players were that they're losing in free agency every year, but either way, whatever. Oh, the guy that went to the Texans last year.
Greenland.
Yeah, Greenland, who had a great season,
Yeah.
All-Pro in Houston. He's great.
It's not Greenland. It's Green.
Is it Grenard?
Grenard.
Yeah,
Greenland.
Yeah, but either way, whatever. Move off Minnesota. So the Giants here, you think it's going to be Russ?
I think it's going to be Russ. There was interest last season. It makes the most sense to bridge to the rookie quarterback that you're obviously going to be drafting. It makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't hate it. I'm a Russ guy. I will say over this weekend, I had started to get myself excited for the potential of Aaron Rodgers coming to play here. And I thought Friday night, I was like, the deal must be done already. With everything we had heard Friday afternoon, Thursday night about the Giants and Rodgers, I thought the deal was basically signed, and that was the first one we were getting today. Obviously, things changed. The Vikings might be interested in him. The Steelers moving off of Fields here now, they're going to be interested. So that more teams became available to him. And I know we're moving off of the Vikings. I wouldn't rule that out, which would be hysterical. But I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, that is a good bridge spot.
Listen, Connor Hughes said it yesterday on Twitter. The doomsday scenario for the Giants at quarterback, so far, two of the dominoes have fallen.
Yes.
Darnold to the Seahawks, Jets get Fields, and then the rest of it, how it would have to play out to where the Giants are really sitting there in trouble, is Rodgers to Minnesota, Russ back to Pittsburgh, and I mean, I think that's all the pieces, and then obviously Jones would go to Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
In that scenario. Jones has no chance to go back to the Giants, but he'd go to Indianapolis, opening the door for Rodgers in Minnesota. I don't think that all happens. I think the Giants land one of the two guys, but it's not. The more time goes on, the more that possibility increases that the Giants don't walk out of free agency with Rodgers and maybe not Russ either. And I think they will. But if they do walk out of this free agency week without one of those guys, the Titans are going to be able to absolutely hose them for the first overall pick, because where is any of your leverage if you don't have a starter for this year?
You're getting next year's first. Because right now it's obviously we've heard the rumors that the Giants the Giants have made phone calls to the Titans. There's been some discussions. A lot of people have reported that it wouldn't include next year's first round pick, a trade up to 1 for the Giants at 3. I think it would absolutely, if the Giants are not able to get one of these guys, it would include next year's 1. And I wouldn't be willing to do that. Well, I think you'd have to be. But either way.
And Shane and Dable have to be, because they can't go into a must-win season with Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito. You can't run it back with one of those guys. So that's where they're at right now.
Yeah.
Maybe a guy like Malik Willis in a trade.
Come on.
Exactly. So Giants aren't in a great spot. We'll get into a bunch of the signings, but while we're talking about the Giants here, I just want to discuss one thing. The Toomer comment this morning. Monty Toomer comes out and says Joe Shane is destroying the franchise, basically. Players will not go to the Giants because they don't want to play under Shane's regime. Your thoughts on that when you first saw it?
I would question how connected Amani Toomer is to the rest of the league. That would be my first. Like, what credibility does Amani Toomer now have to be able to say that about guys in free agency right now? That would be the one question I would have. I don't think it's a desirable place at the moment. I don't. But again, I do think the Giant brand, they're one of the more popular franchises in the league. It's still the New York market. If they're offering you the contract you want, I think you're going to sign here. There are a couple of pieces that do make it a desirable destination. But yeah, like, I don't think, again, you're not playing for Joe Shane, you're playing for Brian Daboll. And by all accounts, Brian Daboll, players like him. I mean, his grade in the NFLPA rankings is always high. Players like playing for Daboll, and that's the one thing that's been a constant for the last 3 seasons.
My boy Roscoe in the comments here, going to hit him up. My guy, Dylan Roscoe. Congrats on DJ Reed, man. I think really good signing on Reed, as a replacement for Carlton Davis. I don't
Mhm.
think the gap between the two players is massive. And I think Reed will fit in nicely with the defense and what they'll try to do because that defense gets after it. Definitely one of the harder playing defenses. And Reed really willing run stopper, run defender, really good coverage corner. He put him in man, put him in zone. I'm upset the Jets lost him. We knew they were going to lose him since that Buffalo game. I don't even think they were going to try to re-sign him really,
Right.
but he could take the ball away, fit seamlessly in for Carlton Davis. That's one of the big signings of the day. A guy that we thought the Giants would be able to get was Reed at 3 for $48 million. It's nice value too. I thought he'd have to get a fourth year, as you would have seen in the predictions, and maybe get a little bit more annually, and he doesn't. It's a really nice move for the Lions.
I was shocked when I saw the number. I do really like the move as well. That was a guy I wanted the Giants to target. He was really good with the Jets, underrated with the Jets, and it seemed like a ugly divorce there with the Jets, where like you mentioned, the Jets weren't even going to offer him a contract. I do really like the move for the Lions, though, who played so hard under Aaron Glenn late last season when they were banged up, and getting those guys back now, getting those guys back healthy. They're obviously going to come back absolutely loaded. I would like to see them go get another pass rusher to go on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would like to see that. That would, like, you want to go compete with Philadelphia and take Philadelphia down, go compete with the defense you're going to be seeing now from the Rams year in and year out. That would be a move I would go make, another pass rusher.
Especially now with Hutchinson recovering from injury, we have the Myles Garrett sweepstakes are over as he's staying with the Browns. We spoke a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, about Garrett going to Detroit as our favorite destination for him. And now we sit here and he's off the board, but Trey Hendrickson's a guy on the board. I think he ends up in Washington. Either way, Lions need to bulk up the front seven with one or two more guys. Pass rusher has to be one of them opposite Hutchinson, so good call there. But DJ Reed, great signing for my guy Roscoe. Happy for him. Let's move to the Patriots quick here. We mentioned briefly Carlton Davis. They got Davis on the 3 for $60. They also added Milton Williams, $26 million a year. I still haven't seen the full terms. I'm sure they're out somewhere now. But Williams had a moment today of going to Carolina. Schefter said they were close to a deal. Rappaport was on McAfee when Schefter said that, and he said they're close to a deal. That's true, but they're not done yet. The deal has not been completed. And then, lo and behold, a few minutes later, he's a Patriot. Patriots having a big day spending. They got Spillane as well. They signed Morgan Moses. Does it really get me pumped like a typical free agent spending spree does? No, but they're filling in pieces with quality players.
You need to sign quality players. You have the cap space to do so. You need to go out and sign players. But we know in this league, you win through drafting. You don't win through these spending sprees. Maybe you win you have a season here or there after these big time spending sprees, but for the most part, you don't win. I just saw a nice tweet. Milton Williams makes more money than Dexter Lawrence per year.
Yeah. The D-tackle market is ridiculous too. And just a side note, you see the Steelers, after Williams signed, released Ogunjobi, who everyone thought they were going to keep because Ogunjobi's walking into that front office just saying, you got no chance at signing me. You're not giving me the money I deserve.
Yeah. No, it's wild the way these D tackles are getting paid. So I don't love it, but like, how do you dislike it? Because you're adding better players. Like, you're adding quality football players. So I can't sit here and tell you I dislike it, but this isn't the way you win football games. And Moses, I wasn't excited when the Jets got him last season. So how am I going to sit here and say now for 3 more years I'm excited the Patriots got him?
This is why Jets Twitter also, just an aside, Jets Twitter's the worst because the Patriots signed Moses and everyone, oh my God, this stings. I can't believe we let him go to a rival. Like, are we losing sleep over Morgan Moses here? Good veteran player. I'm sure Vrabel and the coaching staff will get the most out of him in this final season. But my God, not a great, overwhelming player. I like Spillane a lot to play in the middle of Vrabel's defense. Good physical linebacker. I like the Landry signing. He's a guy that'll bring some culture with Vrabel Vrabel drafted him in Tennessee, and he'll come in and set a little bit of a tone moving forward. Overall, it's just one of those free agent classes. There's not much for New England to do more than they have, so they have to do what they're able to. There's not the big price or the big name household guy available for the Patriots to go sign. They tried to get Chris Godwin. They couldn't. I think they dodged a bullet there. But Vrabel and the coaching staff should be able to get the most out of these guys. And that's why you can't really sit here and rip what they're doing because they're overpaying these players. That's how free agency goes. I think good day, though, for the Patriots. Fans should be at least happy. You look on paper, they're going to be a lot better.
And a lot of talk prior to free agency starting about them not being a destination, even though you have the young rookie, young quarterback going into his second year off a real nice rookie season, and Vrabel, obviously, and it was just a storied franchise, right? The last 20 years, best franchise in all of sports. So it seemed as though they weren't a destination. They're able to sign a couple of these guys, and you're going to probably have to overpay, especially being in the Northeast over here. The taxes over there, it's cold. A lot of these players don't want to play there. Now, again, they still need a couple of receivers. How likely are they to get some of these guys? Are they a team in the top 4 that might have to trade back to take a receiver? Or if Hunter's, obviously there are Carters there, they're gonna stay and take them, but most likely they're not going to be there.
Yeah, they're going to have to. They're going to have to make a move in the draft. Now, the only thing that concerns me is left tackle for New England. They don't have one. And look at the free agents. There are not left tackles here. We'll talk about quick here. I mean, Dan Moore, this is how bare the free agent class is. Dan Moore gets an $82 million contract from Tennessee to be their left tackle. So it's a bare group. It's a shallow group of tackles. Moses was one of the best ones available, if not the best. Teams were locking up their tackles. Ronnie Stanley never hit the market. And the Patriots have to do what they can. They need 2 receivers at least. I think they need a little bit of a better tight end. I don't expect them to get one. And you'd like to see them add a running back. You'd like to see them add a left tackle. That's a lot to ask for. So They're going to go bargain shopping, I'm sure, at running back. I don't think they'll add another tight end. Add a guy at wide receiver like Josh Palmer, maybe, and then turn to the draft for another wide receiver and a tackle. That could be what it is. But I think with the Patriots, when you talk about them not being a destination, we've kind of seen it today, right? Godwin turns down $20 million plus from them, and these guys getting gross overpays. Carlton Davis as well at $20 million a year. This is a lot of money for these players. You have to convince them and sweeten the pot somehow to get them to come to you. And I look
how much,
even with May, sorry to cut you off, even with May and Vrabel, you have to be a little skeptical. May was not great as a rookie. A lot of promise, not great. We've seen quarterbacks with rookie years that level not pan out. And Vrabel had back-to-back losing seasons to finish his 5 years in Tennessee or 6 years in Tennessee, and they weren't good. It was destructive ego Vrabel was very responsible for the team's demise. So there is, while I like their situation a lot, there is reason for players to say, well, I don't love it as much as the media and the fans are alluding to.
Right. Makes sense. How much do you think the Patriots had to pay? How much more a year do the Patriots pay than Carolina was going to pay as they were getting to the finish line?
It's got to be pretty significant there. It's probably got to be, what was that final? It was $26 million a year. They probably
4 years, 104 just came out. 4 years,
Williams.
104 for Williams.
So I'd imagine Carolina was probably somewhere around 4 for 90, because that puts them right below Dex, Quinnen Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, and New England probably had to jump that number, put him into an 8-figure salary or a 9-figure salary. Jesus.
And you could call me an idiot. I really started hearing of Milton Williams this postseason. Was he like a dominant player for them all season, and I was just missing it, paying too much attention to Jalen Carter?
He was good, right? He was good. I watched their last 4 games of Milton Williams. I saw somebody posted a video, Eagles' last 4 games of the season. Watched Milton Williams, where he was his best. He was his best in the final month in the postseason.
Right.
That's when he really rose. Now, when you watch it, and the point of the video was this, he never caught a double team. Great beneficiary of the guys around him.
Yep.
So New England has to, and this goes with everybody, but New England has to put guys around him. Williams cannot be a guy you rely on to be Dexter Lawrence. He's getting paid more, but you can't rely on him to be that guy, or Jalen Carter. So this is a great draft for that. You can get it at the top of the second round. You can
grab-
probably get it at the top of the third round. But
Could you grab a Mason? Could you justify grabbing a Mason Graham at 4?
You could.
After this.
It depends how the rest of their offense fills out in free agency, but you definitely could. If they can get Graham or Carter, you start to feel really good about it. Williams, the only thing for me that bothers me if I was signing him is I just haven't seen it enough throughout his career. This was a half of a season where he was great, and the rest of it he's solid. But for $104 million, that's a lot.
Right. And Justin Fields now goes back. I know we're kicking it all around, but I'm seeing now on Twitter, Fields back with Wilson. Wilson's happy. Already posted it there on his Instagram story, which is nice.
Sounds like Rodgers to the Steelers is any minute now.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say as well.
I'll just say with Fields quickly, the only thing I really have to say about the Jets signing Fields, the reason I like it for them, and I thought they had to do it, is Fields is going to put you in a position where you should not be getting blown out every week. You cannot justify a first season of your head coach and general manager and this new regime and say, all right, we won 3 games. We got killed in most of them. We had 5 or 6 blowout losses by double digits, but it was our first year. No, that cannot happen with the Jets this year. You're going to know if these guys can coach because they have a quarterback who's good enough to compete. Do you expect to win 10 games? Absolutely not. But you should win 6 or 7 with 4 or 5 really encouraging losses in that season as well.
You would hope. Tyrod obviously still there. I'm now seeing on Twitter, could this be, you have these 2 guys. Could you say, okay, you know what? We're going to draft the quarterback second or third round. He has no reason to play at all this season. You have 2 guys, 2 veteran guys that will be playing. And I'm not the biggest Justin Fields guy. I'm going to be completely honest.
Me either.
I have a lot of videos, a lot of episodes of podcasts just ripping them. Okay. But I don't hate this for the Jets because of their situation. And they're in a very unique situation. But I will say, he can play that kind of football that takes you out of games. I don't necessarily, like, you have a talented guy at quarterback, and you'll be able to see some things from this coaching staff, but I'm not going to be able to get a full judgment. If they're losing a ton of football games, it's not going to be fair to judge what Glenn and these guys can do based off of Fields. He's just not that guy. You want to tell me Wilson, even if Tyrod played half the games, fine. I would be able to I think I'd get a better judgment. Be honest with you. I'm really not a huge fan of Fields.
I'm not either, but I cannot see Glenn, and I could see it happening, but like I can't justify him having a season similar to what Saleh did his first year. Jets win 4 games. Zach Wilson was terrible the whole year. He's a rookie, and that was the way that you rationalized it. Well, this first-year coaching staff and a first-year quarterback, they were trying to figure things out. They won 4 games, one of them with their backup, and their defense was 32nd ranked in the league, and they got killed about 10 times that season. I can't have that with Fields and this team. I cannot have it.
Hufanga signing with the Broncos.
Yep, nice move for Denver. Denver's a team that I did expect to be pretty active because this is an interesting point for both Denver and Washington, especially Washington. I wanted to speak about the Kinlaw contract.
Yeah.
Whoa, dude. Whoa. 3 for $45 for Javon Kinlaw was outrageous. Should have just kept Jonathan Allen at that point. But I think an underrated, difficult task in pro sports, especially in the NFL, is when you get these first-year quarterbacks or first-year coaches. I know in Denver it's not that, but similar situation anyways. When you have a first year of something and you don't expect to be good and you play way over your expectation. I mean, Washington, roster-wise, was at least towards the bottom of the top 10 in roster. And they ended up in the Final Four in the postseason. For Peters, it's very difficult, I think, and you have to be really calculated to get your team to a point where you're better next season. And right away, I was worried. And I'm an Adam Peters guy. He's one of those GMs that I actually really liked before he got hired, and I really was familiar with him. But for Kinlaw to get this contract right out of the gate in Washington Commanders free agency, one of the most pivotal free agencies in their franchise's history, if not the most, wildly concerning for me.
Not a fan. Allen's going to get, from what I was reading before, Jonathan Allen's going to get like $80-90 million, and he's with Minnesota today. So, and that could be done by the end of the day. So it is almost half of that. But were people not freaking out when the Jets gave Kinlaw the money for the 1-year deal, and it was
$7 million?
People are like, what? And I remember those conversations.
Josh Sweat, Cardinals, 4 for $76 million.
Did you expect Williams to get more than Sweat coming into this? We're all over the place, and that's fine. This is what today's supposed to be. Did you expect Sweat to get more than Milton Williams?
I expected Williams to get more. I don't think he should.
Just based on the way they're paying the position, especially
exactly.
this season. Okay.
It's the way they're paying the position. Josh Palmer also signed with the Bills, 3 years, $36 million.
That was the next one. That's crazy.
Yeah. Palmer, kind of an overrated guy, I've thought the last few years. Good third receiver. But listen, Buffalo is just in a point right now where you're able to win without a wide receiver one because of how unbelievable your quarterback is. A quarterback that I think we've never seen somebody like. So you can get away with guys like Palmer, 3-year deal. I'm surprised by that. $36 million, surprised by that. Only 18 guaranteed for the first 2, though. So,
is that the price for number 3 wide receivers, though?
It is. I think Darius Slayton gets more.
Because I was having this argument with friends a couple of weeks ago. Like, you're going to see Slayton's number and you're going to say, wow. Like, how is that possible? And that confirms it. Because it's going to be somewhere around there. If Palmer's getting that, Slayton's going to get pretty close to that.
Yeah. It's a crazy market for receivers.
Crazy market for D tackles. Crazy market for MLB managers too. Just a quick side note. Roberts getting $32 million here.
I know.
For 4 years.
Two-time champ.
Yeah.
How many multiple times we're going to go to Burrows now? How many multiple time World Series managers are there in the league right now? You have Bochy and Roberts. Are there any others? Francona.
Welcome
back.
Good guy.
Nobody else, right?
Nobody in the East. Nobody in the Central besides Francona. Council, no. No, you have nobody. You have nobody. Crazy. Where do we want to go here? We said Hufanga, Broncos. They are going to be aggressive. I was listening to Peter Schrager, that podcast told me to listen to, which I was all over.
Simmons.
I was all over that. He had said the Broncos are going to be aggressive here, and they had a lot of guys that they had to bring back as well, and also extensions at some point in this offseason for guys. So they're going to be aggressive, and I would love to see them go get. I know there's been rumors every year about them potentially trading Sutton or getting rid of Sutton. I don't know if this is the offseason they do it after a really nice season with Knicks, but I would love to see them go get another receiver to put next to him.
Yeah, I definitely think they have to. There's guys out there too that go for good value in this class, this free agent class, and there's also a good crop of receivers as always in the draft. It's not as strong as the last 2-3 years, but this is a good group in the draft at receiver. I want to go to one other signing quick that I think is an under the radar one. Trayvon Moehrig to Carolina. I think Moehrig, 25 years old, rising star with Vegas. I was surprised that they let him walk, and we've known for a few days they were going to, but good value because you're going to see the safety market just explode with a couple of these signings. I think a guy like Javon Holland's probably going to get a lot of money. So they do a good job here getting Moehrig. I think he's a good back-end player. And also, one more that I wanted to go to is Drew Dahlman in Chicago. signs the 3-year deal. And Chicago obviously just did a great job this week starting to address the offensive line. Jackson last week in a trade, followed up by Tooney, and then they get Dahlman. And they're putting themselves in a position where Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles don't have to say we need to address offensive line with the 9th pick in the draft. It doesn't have to be O-line now. Ashton Genty feels like a huge possibility if he gets to the Bears there. But either way, they are in a position now to go best player available at the draft and not force their hand on one of the tackles or guards if they don't like them. Good job by Johnson coming in and addressing this right away, because I know it's Ben Johnson.
I was about to say that. You know this is Johnson.
You know it's not Poles waking up after 3 years and saying, we're going to address the offensive line today, because it was overrated last year going into the season. We spoke about it, and Johnson comes in and says, I just came from the best line in football. We're going to try and recreate the same thing. I think Tooney's going to be a stud there. I know a lot of people are saying Tooney's going to lead Chiefs and stink. He left the Patriots and was great. I think he's going to lead the Chiefs and be great. And we'll see about Jackson and Dahlman, but
it wasn't like a skill thing either with them. It was just we can't pay him, and Trey Smith is younger, and we want to pay Trey Smith.
Exactly. That was the decision they had to make, and I think that the Chiefs might go a little bit more to the old early Mahomes style of offense again, where you try to bring in star skill players. And maybe the offensive line doesn't have to be top 3 in the league. You know, you can get away with having the 9th or 10th best line in the league when Mahomes is your quarterback, as long as they stay healthy.
Brought in the tackle from San Francisco as well to play left tackle earlier.
Good job by Chicago. Really nice job by
good
Chicago.
For them.
And you're making sure that Caleb's going to get the protection that he needs and requires in order to develop with Johnson. Good on Johnson. So far, that hire has just looked great for the Bears, too. Nice coaching staff. Really good coaching staff.
Worth the $18 million a year potentially for him, or 17, whatever he's getting.
Absolutely. So good job by Chicago to start this free agency. I don't really know if there's anything else we haven't touched on.
A DT, do you know who I'm talking about? I don't even want to try and pronounce her last
the Colts
name.
rusher that went.
No, it's a woman reporter, CBS Sports. A DT. I promise you, I'm not trying. I'm just going to put it on the screen here. Okay, CBS Sports. You've definitely heard of her.
Yes.
She's saying the Giants and the Steelers are in a bidding for Aaron Rodgers.
How much do you think he gets? Because the consensus at the beginning was, oh, you can get Rodgers on the veteran minimum. I never thought you could. I don't think you ever thought you could. But he's now in a scenario where he could actually squeeze some money out of these desperate teams.
Right now, yes. The two teams that he has bidding for him, 110%. They're desperate to bring in a veteran for the 1 year. I mean, what are the Jets paying him this year? It's a ton, right?
Yeah, the Jets are paying him this season. He's getting like 40-something million, and the next year, same deal.
So, I mean, maybe he gets 20 million. Maybe he gets 20 million.
Yeah. Maybe something even less. Like maybe he ends up at 15, 12, 15.
12 and a half, 15. Okay.
Because I wonder, here's what it'll come down to. Both the Giants and Steelers, what is their evaluation of Rodgers versus Russell Wilson? Are they okay with that as a fallback option, or are they going to be sitting here with Russell Wilson in 24 hours as their quarterback saying, God damn, we did not want this guy back. This was a real last resort for us, and we wanted Aaron Rodgers.
But what is Wilson? What do you think Wilson's getting?
I think Wilson's probably getting around $10 million for a year.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything too serious for Wilson. It seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, like there's a big gap in interest between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. And I think what teams are betting on is the upside now that he's 2 years removed from the Achilles, and they're not thinking the first half player who was objectively bad. Aaron Rodgers was objectively bad in the first half of the season with the Jets. And I know that a lot of that maybe isn't in his power and wasn't in his control. Mm-hmm. But either way, he was objectively bad. He had a good second half, not great, when he got healthy finally. So I think teams might be saying the good player that we saw the last 7 games is the one we're getting, not the bad player we saw for the first 10, 11.
I would be excited if I was a team that is ready to win and was getting this guy. Because, he did play. We know he played good football down the stretch last season. He did. The numbers back that up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the what you mentioned about him having this offseason of not rehabbing, but now just training and getting ready for the year, he's got to be motivated, right? He's heard everything. He has to be. And that is a great mix for a player like him who is telling people he's not done and showed people he's not done and now wants to continue to prove people wrong and show people that he's not done.
The reason I would not want Aaron Rodgers is because I don't think he can stay healthy for a full season at this point. And
but he just did.
Unfortunately,
terrible
but he didn't though because the first
played.
12 weeks of the season he was on the injury report and he sucked. And I think he said publicly, I want to play 17 games. I actually think it's an incredible accomplishment that he played 17 games this year. Mm-hmm. I think that's awesome.
You think he was legitimately hurt where he could have went on the IR?
There were weeks in the beginning of the season that he should have been maybe not on the IR, but he should not have dressed. And Tyrod Taylor should have played because I think he gave the Jets a better chance to win in a few spots early in the season. Now, fast forward to the second half of the year, you finally see Rodgers get healthy after the bye week. Olu Fashanu's playing left tackle for the Jets for a few games, and their offensive line's actually protecting him, and he was good. So the Giants and Steelers also now have to pivot and say, how are we going to make sure our line is holding up? Because if your line doesn't hold up the first 3 games, look at the Jets 2 years ago. Your line doesn't hold up the first 3 games, let alone the first 4 plays for the Jets. Your season might end.
Yeah.
Steelers' offensive line's worse than the Giants, I think, too. And no one's going to talk about that, but
the
Steelers have a worse line.
Right. The Giants' offensive line was pretty decent before everybody got hurt early to mid of last season. And they have to address guard. They're going to sign a guard. I wouldn't be surprised if it was done by the end of the day. They need a right guard. So they've made changes. They've improved it over the last couple of seasons, and they have a left tackle.
Yep. They do. They've not only a left tackle, the 4th or 5th best left tackle in the league, and another guy that you're worried about his health. Can he stay on the field? Hasn't been able to the last 2 years. But Pittsburgh had a bad line last year. And did Rodgers just sign with the Steelers?
Did he?
I'm getting texts if he did. I don't see anything.
I don't see it.
Either way, so Pittsburgh last year had a line that was not good. Their offensive line was not good. Now they lose Dan Moore, and there's not a fallback option at free agent tackle. Maybe Broderick Jones moves over to left tackle, but Broderick Jones even has ups and downs through his first 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I trust this Steelers offensive line at all to be able to handle Aaron Rodgers.
I'm just trying to I'm refreshing here. I don't think he signed yet, but I did see something from a Steelers reporter about 10 minutes ago that it was like close, but these
yep.
I don't know if they know more or they're just putting crap out there to put their name out there. I don't know. But sorry, I didn't hear what you said because I was reading.
It's all right. I was just saying basically Steelers offensive line last year was not good. They lose Dan Moore to the Titans.
Yeah.
He was a 4-year starter for you. Where's the replacement going to come from? Are you going to be confident that a rookie can hold it down for Aaron Rodgers? Because I think Russ can still move a little bit. Fields obviously would have been okay behind a crappy offensive line. Another advantage of him is I don't think great line versus average line really changes Fields' output. But Rodgers, if the Steelers line is bad, no one's going to talk. Everyone's going to rip the Giants line.
Right.
The Steelers line stinks.
Right.
It's bad.
And the weapons obviously now are better, but
yes,
with Pittsburgh, but they weren't before DK. You bring DK in now, it's like, okay, you got a legit one. Giants have a legit one, I think, with Neighbors. I don't know how much of a factor that plays him wanting to come here or not, though. I don't know. Does he want to not move? Is he pissed at the Jets? Does he want to get back at the Jets?
And I agree with that as a possibility. I would say I think there's pros to playing for the Giants, first of all. So don't think I'm just ripping them to be an asshole.
Yeah.
There's pros to playing for the Giants. If he picks the Giants over Pittsburgh or another team solely because he wants to get back at the Jets, I think that's just a massive mistake in team selection. Because this is your final stop. This is your last stop to be a starter and produce in the league as
Yep.
one of the greatest players of all time. Your ego's riding on this. Your reputation's riding on this at the end of your career. Can you do maybe not even win a Super Bowl, but can you do some of the things that Manning and Brady done at their final stops statistically? And he did it with the Jets, but maybe he can with the Giants or the Steelers. You have to make sure you pick your best option. And Pittsburgh, he's got to be looking at that and saying, if I'm a little bit worse than I was last year, we're winning 10 games.
Yeah, but you're in a brutal AFC.
Yep.
And a really tough division where, what are you, the second? You're the third team in the division.
Yeah.
You're the third best quarterback. There's pros and cons. You're right. There are pros and cons to both. This isn't just a slam dunk easy decision. Now, again, Giants, brutal division. NFC's getting a lot better. There's some loaded rosters over there. I don't know. I don't know. It's not a slam dunk that they're making the playoffs with Pittsburgh.
No, it's not. And it's maybe less of one with the Giants, no?
I don't think it's... See, for me...
It's tough. I think the Giants' division's better.
The reason why I think he's going to end up with the Steelers is because when you come to the Giants, I don't necessarily believe the goal for him coming to the Giants is making the playoffs. You know, obviously, that's what you want to do. That would be a dream scenario. But I truly believe the Giants are signing Rodgers to pair along with a rookie quarterback is that they're not irrelevant, which is fine. I don't think this is Joe Shane making an irrational decision to save his job. I think signing Rodgers, even if it's to a $20 million contract for the 1 year, you're trying to save your job, but you're also trying to be competitive and build up the rest of the roster so that they know what it's like to play with a professional.
Yep.
And show that rookie quarterback that you probably draft, hey, this is what it looks like to be a quarterback in the NFL for 15, 20 years.
And I told you this the other day, but I did hear a good piece of info that I trust that Russell Wilson does not provide that same level of mentorship that Rodgers does. Even if Rodgers isn't doing it hands-on, I don't know what their styles are. There's just a feeling that Rodgers is a much better lead by example guy than Russell Wilson has been with Denver and Pittsburgh. He could change that, obviously. He might be realizing that his career is turning more into the veteran mentor than the 29-year-old MVP candidate. Mm-hmm. But still, Rodgers seems to be the better guy for that. Rodgers is, I will say, the better guy for the Giants than Russ. It's just something about, like, I don't love Russ with the Giants. I don't love Russ. I love Russ.
Yeah.
I don't love Russ with the Giants.
See, I think Shane is having the conversation. He's like, hey, Russ, like, we're drafting a quarterback and we don't want him to play much this season. Like, you're the guy, but we would love if you were supportive and whatnot and a mentor. The one thing about Rodgers, and I've gotten on him a lot over the last few years, those guys defended him. His teammates defended him every single time. When things are said about him, they go to bat for him. That's the one thing. Especially the younger quarterbacks. I think I saw Jordan Travis tweet something about him as well, just how great he was with him, even though Travis was injured all year, and the Jets actually screwed that up with his rehab, whatever.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah,
it's not worth talking about, but that was a weird, like, random.
They wanted him to practice, and then he suffered a setback.
There's so many things on both sides of that I'm like, this does not add up at all. But either way, yeah, you're right. Rodgers, as in terms of his regard by his teammates, not named Mike Williams or Garrett Wilson, seems to be absolutely beloved by those he's played with. And that's something that the Giants need to be going after instead of Russell Wilson, who I don't think has that. And if Pittsburgh's not bringing him back, or it doesn't even sound like Pittsburgh's speaking to him
Russ
as an option. Yeah.
I see, and I meant to ask you that before. I have no clue about that. Grady Jarrett, released today by Atlanta, is signing a 4-year, $43 million contract, $28.5 guaranteed with the Chicago Bears. So the Bears keep adding. Was that expected? I was a little surprised when I saw that this morning.
The release, I think it's the same deal as Ogunjobi. I think these teams realize what these quality defensive tackles have to get paid in extensions, and they're just saying, we cannot justify this.
We're good. we're good.
And then you can't trade them because other teams don't want to give up a pick and the contract.
Right. Eagles lose 2 guys on the defensive line. I know they've just done a great job of drafting and replacing guys. And I know the money, for the most part, is going to be tight in terms of signing free agents. They're going to be great. I'm not saying this. They've brought a ton of guys back, but do we worry that they are going to be lacking something on that defensive front there, especially on the defensive line? You have Carter. I mean, Bryce Huff was a massive failure.
Yep.
Right now, he'd be slotted in to start right now. Does that worry you at all?
Yeah, I'd be concerned with the Eagles, and of course, it's fine for Eagles fans. They shouldn't be upset because you just won the Super Bowl. Shouldn't be upset by the comments here, but I do think that Philly's going to have a lot of trouble competing next season with Detroit, with Minnesota, Green Bay, whichever of those 2 teams are great. Maybe Chicago takes a massive leap in the first year of Johnson. Washington's going to be tough. I think Dallas and the Giants are both going to be competitive at a point. Dallas definitely will be with Dak healthy. I think they always are. But Schottenheimer, a little scary. But Giants will be more competitive. Philly will have a little trouble competing next year. San Fran's probably going to be back on the map after a year off. And
we love the Rams. We love
the Rams. Rams are the best team in the NFC. And Seattle, we'll see what they do. A lot of you're right. This is a point that I was thinking about 2 nights ago. The NFC is getting a lot better. The gap is closing between the NFC and the AFC because I think the AFC has grown a little overrated, and the NFC is really building some good teams. We'll see what Seattle does after Darnold, but Eagles are going to have trouble. And Zach Bond, getting him back on a nice deal there, they got some good value, was huge. I thought he was going to be a big money free agent on the open market, maybe end up in New England or somewhere else. So that was a big signing for them. But you're right. They're going to have some trouble rebuilding it. Not going to be easy.
The Giants are not the only team involved in Russell Wilson. There are several teams poking around. Per sources, this is Connor Hughes. So missing out on Rodgers doesn't guarantee Joe Shane Russell Wilson. They'll have to convince him to come here.
He just said again the Titans are among teams interested in Russell Wilson. I was just going to ask this. Why not the Colts for Russell Wilson? I haven't seen any interest there, but if Jones goes to Minnesota, Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, and your 2 options are the Giants, who are saying we're going to draft a quarterback probably, or the Colts, who are telling you can compete with Richardson for the job, Colts might be an enticing option for Russ.
But is it? Yes and no. You're telling Russ to come compete with a guy. Does Russ really fully trust that he's going in there to compete? I mean, again, the investment has been made in Anthony Richardson. If you're Daniel Jones, it's almost like what do you have to lose? If I'm Russell Wilson, I know I'm starting over, for the most part, I know I'm going to be starting over the rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
There was already an investment made in Anthony Richardson, and when it seems like it's a make or break kind of situation for a quarterback, why do I want to go and put myself in that situation where I'm towards the back end? I'm towards the end of my career. I'm at the end of my career, and I have a guy that's trying to save his career. Why do I want to go compete against that guy?
Yeah, you see his Banks contract for Green Bay?
What is that? I just saw he
Banks
signed
4 for $77.
Wow. He was the top guard.
Top guard, yep.
The guard from Baltimore that just signed with Jacksonville for $13 million a year. Blanking, literally just looking at the name and I'm forgetting it. That was a target for the Giants. He's out now, the right guard. So he's in Jacksonville, $13 a year.
I mean, there's so much time left, but the big name guys that you would have wanted the Giants to get, minus the quarterbacks, are kind of gone already. No,
they needed a guard. They need a guard.
But
they got a corner. They got a corner.
I have a feeling they might have to go into the draft saying, "Well, we could get a guy in the second round to play interior line, or we really have to say Evan Neal could be our right guard."
Well, I think either way, they have to move him out. They have to move him inside. They have to. They have to move him inside.
I heard Art Stapleton the other day talking about how they've flirted with it, and he's played a little bit of guard in camp, but he's so bad at guard, and he can't get down in his stance at all. That's why they kept him at tackle this past year. So we'll see.
Maybe he lost some weight. Maybe he lost some weight. He's ready to go.
Right. Same thing with Jason Dominguez. I think they have to tell him right now. You're playing right guard. We're not moving you anywhere else. This is it.
This is your chance.
This is your spot.
This is what you need to do. Kevin, I don't know. I actually went into the weekend with some hope, and now I've lost it.
Because you hope that they would get at least a couple of these. I think they need a defensive tackle. They need another receiver, but they're not in a great spot because you look through it. I mean, there's not a team out of the big spending teams, the big money teams right now, Carolina, Patriots, Giants, Raiders. There's not a team less appealing than the Giants. They are the least appealing team.
Let's have this conversation because this quarterback conversation is almost like a two-parter.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Rodgers signs with Pittsburgh, like I think we both expect.
Yes.
And then Russell signs with the Giants. Now the Titans are screwed because the Titans don't have a quarterback going into next season. I don't believe they're going to start Will Levis this season. So now they're forced to take a quarterback at 1. And it's the guy you want at 1. So now what do the Giants do?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like in either way, you're screwed.
It does feel that way.
Any scenario, you're screwed because if they sign Wilson and you don't get a quarterback, you're paying a premium to go to 1. Or you get Wilson, they don't have a quarterback, they're kind of stuck at 1 and have to take a quarterback. You get Rodgers, they get Wilson.
Really good.
That's not a scenario. That is not a scenario.
Really good point. I don't know, man. It's tough. Giants are in a really bad spot at quarterback because they just don't have any leverage to be able to go and get their guy in free agency. They are the like bottom of the barrel teams out of the teams interested, right? Pittsburgh, Indianapolis. We've listed pros for them today.
Those are the two teams ahead. Obviously, if Minnesota's interested, Minnesota's ahead. It's them and the Titans at the bottom. I think they're ahead of the Titans,
and Vegas gets their guy in Geno. Seahawks get their guy in Darnold. Jets get the guy they wanted in Fields, and Pittsburgh is next up. Do they want Rodgers or not? How serious are they on Rodgers? And that will be, what that'll dictate his outcome with them is whether if they want him, they're going to get him.
The one thing that's fascinating about Justin Fields for a second is, and this obviously has nothing to do with the Jets because there was obviously at the time no reason to bring him in. But what did the Steelers trade from? Like a 5th round pick, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how how a year changes things.
Yeah.
Where, now he has a market after playing 4 games with the Pittsburgh Steelers, 5 games with Pittsburgh Steelers. Then now he has a market all of a sudden to get $20-40 million.
Mm-hmm.
After anybody could have had him for a 5th round pick on a whatever. I don't remember what the price would have been.
Yeah, you're right. And it's not even a year where he won 10 games for Pittsburgh. He's 4-2.
Yeah. And he was benched.
He's 4-2 and got benched. And he decided. Now, the one thing I'm going to give to Fields, and I don't think the Jets can do it either, but the one defense I'll give Fields is I do not think we have ever seen an offensive coordinator with Justin Fields as their quarterback run the offense to his strengths. Everyone has tried to turn him into too much of a passer, and he's not. Could the Jets do that?
Uh-huh.
That's a big question. I don't think the Jets can do that. So
I thought you were about to say, have this moment. Maybe the Jets could fix him. The Jets could be this
absolutely
guy.
not. Like if they hired Greg Roman,
okay,
then I'd be like, all right, Roman's gonna run this offense. It's gonna be the biggest ground and pound run in the league with great run coordination, and he's gonna throw when he needs to. And Fields with Tanner Engstrand, I don't see that happening.
Well, I don't know enough. We can't judge Tanner. We don't know him yet. We don't know him.
So I don't know. But
the Giants have made a signing here. The Giants signed Roy Robertson Harris, veteran defensive tackle. 2 years, $10 million, released by Seattle last week. So you just said D tackle. They have signed a veteran D tackle to go play alongside the best one in the league, in Mr. Dexter Lawrence.
All right.
Doesn't move me at all. I'm just saying.
Roy Robertson, captain in Jacksonville.
Yeah. Did I say Seattle or Jacksonville?
You said Seattle.
Well, he was released by Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle probably had him for a
year.
While. Yeah, captain.
There we go.
2 years ago.
Giants make a move.
Giants, Debo and Robertson today. Really big day one.
And probably no quarterback.
Yeah, probably no quarterback.
Do you think that's how this is going to go?
No, I think they're going to get Russ.
Okay.
They're going to get one of those two guys, I think, because you're right. If Russ wants to start, it's Tennessee. But Tennessee is a better option than the Giants, I think, for a quarterback.
I don't think so.
You're in a way worse division. Houston's beatable. Offensive line's better in Tennessee. They have a chance to have a better group of playmakers around you. They have to do more for it, but if they trade back in the draft after getting you, they have a chance of getting a guy. They have a chance of getting Travis Hunter if they move back to 3. So I think Tennessee is a situation I'd be more inclined to go to if they're not drafting a quarterback than the Giants. I don't want to play in the NFC East for the Giants.
I agree with you, but you think them signing Russ would stop them from drafting a quarterback? Because
no, but what I'm saying is if Russ goes in there now and they're like, yeah, we have no plans to draft a quarterback. We absolutely want to trade out. We're just not telling people that. We will tell you that and just keep it confidential. Because that's what happened. And obviously this is ironic, but that's what happened with the Falcons last year with Kirk Cousins. They said, because he met with Minnesota and they said, we're going to draft a quarterback. And he went to Atlanta and they said, we're not going to take a quarterback in the draft. And then they took Penix. That's the irony of it. But he went there because they assured him they wouldn't do it. If Tennessee did that and said, we're trading out or taking Carter or Hunter, he'd probably be really enticed to go to the Titans.
And then the Giants get screwed for the number 1 pick.
And then the Giants get screwed for the number 1 pick because they're sitting there with probably Gardner Minshew and Tommy DeVito while their coach and general manager are in the last year.
Would you have your office cleaned out already if you were
I'd clean it out myself. I'd call security and just say we're 6 weeks before the draft here. Yeah. I got Minshew and DeVito. And I gotta send 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds to move up 2 spots in the draft for quarterbacks that might not have been top 50 picks the last 2 years.
He's like, hey, I'm not drafting these guys, so I might as well just send these picks.
Yeah, call the front desk. Hey, call the front desk. Hey, can you just come get my stuff? Bring me a few boxes.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yep. All right. Anything else here? I don't think we're getting any news in the next few minutes. So
no, we'll definitely get the Rodgers news the second we sign off, but we'll let you know about that.
Yeah. All right. So I will be jumping back on. I know Mike's got work. We'll figure out the schedules of the next few days, but I'm going to be jumping back on the next few days doing stuff. Maybe even again today if we get anything really big. Definitely check out the Instagram and TikTok for our videos and shorts. If we're not jumping on for a live, we'll put reactions to anything significant on that. Appreciate you watching today, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. It might just be a bunker on video doing it for recapping the first day. We'll see if anyone's able to join us, but that's going to be it for today. So we appreciate you listening. Stick around for the rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of free agency, and hopefully Twitter continues to work.